going?
Away from your hot steaming water.
Away from my hot steaming water?
Yeah.
Oh, I would rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
I
rebuke you in the name of
You better not. I swear to God, I'll shoot you right in your face.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Drop the
We're going to break down the shooting of Sandra Massey in Illinois by a police officer who was arrested for murder, by the way. We're going to go review that entire shooting. We're going to break it down. We're going to give you lessons for your church safety team about how you can make sure this doesn't happen to you. Make sure you don't have a similar type incident. Not that you're responding to somebody's house, but you'll have to deal with mentally ill people on drugs and other stuff that's going to be an issue. We're going to talk about how to deal with those people, how to avoid a shooting like this, and how this all could have been avoided, and alternatives, things that you can do tactically to change the flow of the direction of things are going when you don't want it to go that way. All right, but first, I think it's important that we watch the video. Now, for the YouTube overlords that are watching this, I'm not going to show the whole video because you're age restricting the people that show the video. So I'm going to stop at the part that gets you age restricted, but you'll still get the idea of what's going on.
Okay.
What's up?
I got some paperwork. Can you grab that Bible, please?
Yeah.
So I think it's important to note that she is very Christian focused. She's Jesus focused during this interaction. The police were called because she called thinking that somebody was going to break into her house or had broken into her house or something along those lines. But she called them asking for help. But it turns out that nobody was actually breaking in. It sounds like there might be some mental illness or something else going on. But let's continue.
Hey, I just need your name so we can get out of here. Was there any damage previous to your car?
Previous, yeah, it was.
Okay, what was the damage?
A dent, I believe.
Well, what about windows?
Oh, it was something that happened earlier.
Okay, perfect. What is your last name? Shouldn't have to think about your last name.
Okay.
You're not in trouble. I just need to touch.
Massey.
Huh?
Massey.
Yeah. You have an ID? That'd make things so much easier. I just need just a driver's license will do, and I'll get out of your hair.
I want to show y'all my paperwork.
I will get your paperwork.
What paperwork?
Okay. I got some paperwork.
Well, just get your ID real quick.
Well, let's get your ID first, and then...
One task at a time here.
Okay. Let me
Here, grab your ID for me.
Okay, one of the things I just want to note right here, they're letting her dig around in all this stuff. Number one, they have to determine if they do want to contact her. I know what they're doing is they're getting her information so they can write a report saying we went there and nothing happened. But if things aren't going your way, then sometimes it's just better just to walk away, right? So we'll talk more after we watch the whole thing. But me personally, I think I would have walked away from this, realized, all right, there was no crime. She called to report a crime. There was no crime. Happens all the time. And just cut bait and leave. But now they're letting her dig into all these different items. She looks harmless, but there are some things you see the frustration in her face. She's possibly imagining that there's people trying to break into her house. You really don't want anybody, even victims, digging around for stuff, and because you never know what's going to. I shouldn't say all victims, but in an incident like this where there are some indicators that things aren't right with her, you don't really want her digging around inside of there. So I would go, oh, let me look for you, let me help you, and then pull it away, or just leave.
Okay.
Your ID. One task at a time. So let's do an ID, and then you can dig around for your paperwork.
I don't know where my ID is.
You can see in that stack right there, maybe?
Okay. 1 second.
Just check on her.
Let me leave this.
No, we don't need a fire while we're here.
Right. Okay. Let me see.
Okay, here's the other problem. All right, we're going to get the bad parts coming. The kitchen is the most dangerous place. And you learn this in the basic academy. Don't let people go into the kitchen because there's knives and all those implements could hurt you. But they just let her do it. They're not controlling her. And they should either control her or leave.
Okay. Where are you going?
Huh?
Where are you going?
Away from your hot steaming water.
Away from my hot steaming water?
Yeah.
Oh, I would rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
Huh?
Rebuke you in the name of
You better not. I swear to God, I'll shoot you right in your face.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Drop the pot!
This is horrible. I don't even know what to say. When I first saw this, I was like, oh, it's going to be something stupid. No, that's bad. That's really bad. I thought it was going to be the press trying to set up another incident because we're close to the election. Yeah, that wasn't it. He screwed up pretty bad. Now, look, he couple of things to learn from this. Okay. Number one, obviously a bad shoot, right? He's using a lot of profanity, which sometimes you may need to use profanity to make people listen because that's the only words they understand, but that's not this person, right? It's not appropriate for this. And he says, I'm going to shoot you in your effing face. And he did. That doesn't look good when you go to court, right? Okay, let's go back a little bit more. What can we learn about this incident? Number one, the deputy's name is Sean Grayson. He worked for 6 agencies since 2020. All right, you guys have heard me rail against COVID cops before. Okay, I was a cop for, as you can tell, for 30 years. Okay, 2020, you saw a mass exodus of cops from law enforcement. Departments could not fill their roles, so they lower standards. They ignored things in people's backgrounds, like this guy. 6 agencies since 2020. Now, some of those agencies, they were part-time. So it was like part-time. I get it. They were paying $17 an hour. I mean, and number one, if you pay a cop $17 an hour, you're going to get a $17 an hour cop, which is, you're going to get crap. You're not going to get somebody that's very good because you can make more money at McDonald's. So the biggest thing you can learn here for you personally on your church security team is to do a background check on all your people. Here, you would have learned 6 agencies in 4 years. You would have seen that he was in the Army for 2 years. The Army has 3-year contracts. That means he was booted, med boarded, like something happened there that you left after 2 years and didn't complete your 3rd. Well, you dig deeper and you would have found out during that time period, he had 2 DUIs. Now, that may be why he was in the Army for only 2 years. So if you can't cut it in the Army, then maybe you can't cut it as a cop, right? And you got 2 DUIs on top of that. Is that somebody you want on your safety team? Let me answer that for you. No, that is not somebody that you want on your safety team. If you look and you find like, oh, great, we got a cop that wants to be on the safety team, but then you find out he's been in 4 agencies since 2020, yeah, don't select him. And then you find out he was only in the Army for 2 years and then had 2 DUIs at the same time, which would explain why it's only 2 years. That is not somebody that you're going to bring in your safety ministry. Why? Because they're going to be around the children. They're going to, they're going to work on your authority, the authority of the church, to keep the peace and to keep evildoers away and to make sure people are okay. He has shown that he can't do that. These departments chose to hire him. And what happened? He shot a woman that didn't deserve to be shot. It's horrible. You can look at these incidents and think, what can we do as a church safety team? Yeah, don't hire people like that, right? It also goes to other people working within your church, not just on the safety team. If they're going to pick, I don't know, if they're going to be on the welcoming committee, okay, I guess that's fine. They're welcoming people at the door. You can keep an eye on them. Everything will be fine. Working with the children in the Sunday school? No, right? Somebody, is the finance director at your church? No, right? So just some things to think about. You want to look at those red flags. Those are all red flags. Army 2 years, red flag. 2 DUIs in 2 years, 2 red flags, right? 6 agencies, 4 years, that's 6 red flags. You also, from this, we learned that we want to train our people in dealing with people that are mentally ill, have drug issues. I don't think, I can tell you drugs were not an issue with this lady. I train cops in how to detect drug impairment. That is not it. I do think there might be some mental illness or, some other, mental emergency going on. But you have to train your people on how to deal with the mentally ill and people that are having a mental crisis because they don't think rationally. Like, she didn't give her last name when they asked for it. That's because some people can't think of their last name. That's a sign of depression, and a sign of PTSD, that you can't remember your name. I mean, it happens. It blew me away the first time I ran across this. I'm like, it's your name. You should know your name. But we're normal, living in a normal world. They are not. And you need special training to deal with that, talking to them, understanding what they're going through, how to de-escalate somebody like that, right? So you want to train your team and how to work with mentally ill people. And then you want to run scenarios in dealing with people that are mentally ill. So you have somebody play the part of a mentally ill person. You go back and forth, trying to resolve some issue. And then you go back and you debrief it and figure out what went right, what went wrong, how you're going to make it all better, right? You want to work on less lethal training. Okay. He's worried about the pot of hot water. I didn't detect an attack from her coming. They're called pre-attack indicators. Before somebody attacks you, there are things that they do before they attack you. I definitely wouldn't get close to her with a pot of hot water because, could it hurt you? Absolutely. Is it going to kill you? No, it's not. Okay. He pulls his gun and says, drop the effing pot of water. Okay. It's called proportional force. If you head over to christianwarriortraining.com, I have a class on use of force. And in that class on use of force, I talk about proportional use of force. Proportional use of force means you come at me with fists, I come at you with pepper spray, right? You come at me with a knife, I come at you with a gun, right? And we talk about proportional force. A pot of hot water does not equate to getting shot. It sounds simple, but I have seen in scenario-based training, I've seen people that would have done the same thing. They would have shot them because they were not in the right mind. They have not been practicing these things either. Okay. So you've got to practice this. So you want to, number one, the other thing is a lot of teams, they either aren't armed or they have handguns, and that's it. Okay. If all you have is a handgun, then you have no means to stop. You only have a handgun to stop things. And most of the times you're going to be dealing like handing out band-aids or giving directions or something like that. You're more likely to use hands-on, like grabbing somebody, redirecting somebody, something like that. If you don't have a less lethal option for your team, when you go to court and you shoot somebody, even though it was righteous, the first thing they're going to ask is, what less lethal options did you have? None. Oh, so you're only prepared to kill people. Seriously, that is what's going to come up. So you got to give your people pepper spray, and then you got to give them training in pepper spray. You got to give them defensive tactics training, right? Like how to defend myself. I recommend Krav Maga. I think Krav Maga works, or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or something like that. Both work really well, or both combined. You know, you can give them, if it's legal in your area, a baton, right? But then there's a lot of training that goes behind that. But you're going to have to find, I've got a whole separate article on less lethal weapons. I got a video on here on Christian Warrior Training on YouTube on less lethal weapons for churches that you can go back and look. Tasers, batons, pepper spray, you name it. It's all there for you. You've got to have an intermediate thing. What would I have done to her if I was in the same situation? I would have created distance, and I would have backed up more and said, hey, and when he was forceful and said, put the effing pot down, she did. She was like, oh, and she even goes, I'm sorry. And like, she went back down, right? He was done. And he says, ma'am, now stand up and come over here. Please, I don't want to get hot water on me, right? Come on over here. And she probably wasn't even thinking that direction. Doesn't think like a normal person, which goes back to dealing with mentally ill people. The other thing you want to do is do shoot, no shoot scenarios, and not just at the range. You have to do this with like less lethal, to where like one of the things that I like doing is you pick a room in the church. You protect the walls and everything. Put stuff out to protect your walls and your paintings, and then you give people proper protective equipment. And then you take airsoft guns, and then you have them contact people in that room for whatever problem. Have them work through an issue, and then have something come up where they got to decide they're going to shoot, not shoot. They're going to use a lower level force, and you give do an entire day of just scenarios like that, and make them work it out through their mind. So when they do encounter something like this, it's very easy for them to deal with because they've dealt with it already. Nobody should get shot over a pot of water. Why am I seeing these issues with these cops doing these unjustified shootings or murders in this case? The reason why this is occurring is just what we talked about. There's poor background checks, sometimes none. If they do a background check, they ignore the red flags. 2 DUIs, probably expelled from the military, but we haven't confirmed that yet. 6 agencies in 4 years. These are all red flags. One of them by themselves would keep you from hiring somebody. The other issue is training. We can't hire enough people. There aren't enough cops on the street. And so now they can't go to training. And because they can't go to training, they're making mistakes. And it's kind of this self-fulfilling prophecy of it's just getting worse every day, right? You've got to train, continue to train, and you've got to do these scenario-based trainings. You got to give people the tools that they need. Now, thankfully, a lot of these issues are over at christianwarriortraining.com. You can go head over there right now. And I'm not charging you for this. If you want, I know that this video is going to be demonetized. If you want to support my work, I want to do this stuff for you for free. If you want to support my work, you can do a paid subscription over there and still get everything for free anyways, but it helps me do content and not have to do anything else. But I have newsletters that address these issues. If you want to know how to set up scenario training, I got a whole scenario training guide that already has scenarios in there for you that you can head over to christianwarriortraining.com. It's in there somewhere. I'm not sure where. Go look for it. You'll find it there. I have everything that you will ever want over there for free. But if you want to support me, I would appreciate if you did a paid subscription, but only if you can afford it. If you can't afford it, then I don't want you doing it at all, right? But everything is there for you. The most important thing that you can be doing to protect yourself every single day is to remember your ABCs. Always be caring.